Welcome to CSGuitars, the science of loud. In this age of smartphones and internet streaming, it may seem trivial to be able to record and layer sounds instantaneously. A little bit of digital memory and some basic software is all you need, but in the days before computers that could fit in your pocket, or indeed into a pedal enclosure, being able to layer sounds on top of other sounds in a live environment wasn't an easy or inexpensive thing to achieve. With many looper pedals now on the market, what I want to know is where did they come from and how did we get to this point? I can tell you exactly where loopers come from. I'm sorry, who are you? I'm you from the future, because it's a looper video? You know, the movie Looper. I've never seen. Well, this is gonna go right over your head. Basically, looper pedals haven't been invented yet, but in the future they have. We've got to send them back in time to sell them though, because the past is the only untapped market left. I'm sorry, so are you trying to tell me that time travel was invented solely for the purpose of retail? Capitalism, am I right? Here's the latest loop station from Boss. I'm away before you decide to kill me. The history of loopers, I guess. The origin of looping began with machines similar to this. Part mechanical, part electronic, these devices allowed sound to be recorded to magnetic tape and played back later. As you can see, tape is being fed from the reel on the left over playheads which erase, record or play back the magnetically stored audio, and it's taken up again by the reel on the right. What you are now hearing is an analog recording of my voice laid down to magnetic tape using a device almost 50 years old. This is a stereo tape recorder, allowing for different audio to be recorded to two different sections of the tape and played back at the same time. This was intended to be used for stereo recordings of a single sound, but with a little tweaking can be used to capture two completely different audios and play them back together. While this unit is from the late 70s, tape recorders go back much farther in time. Magnetic tape has been used as a recording medium since 1928, advancing from the magnetic wire recorders which came before. These were strictly mono, single-track devices and used almost exclusively for recording telephone communications or dictation, particularly in military applications. Throughout the 30s and 40s, engineers in Germany continued to advance the technology with better tape materials and higher fidelity recordings, culminating in stereo tape recorders by 1943. But due to the slight problem of there being a worldwide conflict well underway, these were kept a military secret until the war ended a few years later. These advanced Nazi tape machines were captured by Allied forces, with units making their way back to America so that the technology could be studied and recreated. Within a couple of years, and with substantial funding from Bing Crosby, who recognised the potential of pre-recording music for broadcast, American company Ampex were producing their own stereo tape machines for the film and music industries. One of the engineers who got the opportunity to analyse those captured tape machines was not only a gifted inventor, but also an accomplished musician. Inspired by what these machines were capable of, he modified one of the Ampex models to be able to record multiple tracks on top of each other. This new sound-on-sound technology allowed him and his wife to create multi-layered recordings at home. Songs which would go on to become hit after hit and change the face of music production forever. That man was Les Paul. Yes, that Les Paul.
We turn the tape machines on. They're just a standard, regular Ampex tape machine. You know. And we play the first part on the guitar. This is the rhythm part.
Now you put your earphones on and you play another part to it, is that right?
That's right.
In 1953, Les Paul and Mary Ford went on television to demonstrate how they managed to create these multi-layered recordings at home. In the TV studio, they layered guitars and vocals using their tape machines, starting from nothing and laying down rhythms, leads, melodies, harmonies and building to a complete song, making this, in a way, the first demonstration of what would become live looping.
Somewhere there's music,
By 1957, Ampex had manufactured the first 8-track tape recorder based off of Les Paul's design, a unit which cost more money at the time than the average American earned in a year. Other artists dabbled in using tape machines to loop music, including Terry Riley and King Crimson's own Robert Fripp, but these techniques required the use of multiple tape machines hooked together, so never really gained widespread usage in live performances. Multi-track tape recording would remain the dominant method of audio production in studios and for broadcast for decades to come. But just as valves slowly gave way to transistors in the semiconductor revolution of the 60s, tape would eventually meet its downfall at the hands of solid-state devices. It would just take technology a little longer to strike the killing blow. It wasn't until the late 80s that digital technology had advanced enough that it could take its first tentative steps towards live looping. Some digital delay units were becoming available, including Boss's own DSD pedals. Although not exactly user-friendly, the opportunity was there to record sound and play it back repeatedly without the need for large, bulky tape machines. As the decade shifted into the 90s, computers were beginning to become powerhouses. In movies, computer-generated effects were evolving from shiny amorphous objects into imitating realistic, living creatures. While in the studio, computers were more than capable of processing sound recordings using digital audio workstations. Sure, these early DAWs were limited and would crash often, but they offered an ease of use and functionality that multi-track tape recorders could no longer match. Tape as a recording medium was all but extinct. Computers now ruled the earth. As we crossed into the new millennium, the biggest fear on everyone's minds was as the clocks changed at midnight, heralding in the year 2000, a glitch in computer systems wouldn't be able to comprehend the new digits of the year and would crash the world's connected digital infrastructure, throwing the world into chaos. Of course, that didn't happen, and looking back now, the millennium bug fears seem a little quaint, but it does prove just how pivotal computers had become to every business, livelihood, and personal life in the developed world. Not only were we all using computers, but they were getting smaller and more powerful by the day. Laptops were the new booming success, allowing people to produce music on the go or even perform it live. DJs were able to play samples from laptops and layer sounds in ways they could never have done before using vinyl or CD decks. Other musicians wanted in on this action, demanding floor units that could record, playback, and overdub both instruments and vocals. It can be argued that it was the Boss RC20 loop station which really changed the game on live looping. While this wasn't the first looping device available on the market, it did offer a massive amount of sampling time, and it had some user-friendly operation capable of sampling guitars, vocals, and pre-recorded audio. But perhaps most importantly, it was priced affordably enough that many musicians could finally get their hands on one, taking live looping from a specialist cult activity to a mainstream technique. Naturally, Boss and others have continued to push what is capable of live looping as technology has advanced over the last 2 decades, and we find ourselves here with the RC5 loop station, which was announced just recently. This crams a lot of live looping ability into a very compact form factor and represents the best of what technology can currently achieve. The RC5 takes the same steps forward that looping technology has been making since the 80s. Longer recording times, higher fidelity sound, and an ever-increasing array of additional features. 32-bit floating point processing ensures high-fidelity sound regardless of how many overdubs you add, so you can keep on layering it up without worrying that your sound will suffer as a result. This is paired with 32-bit analog to digital conversion and back again, meaning that nothing is lost in the digitization process. Long gone are the days of 30-second maximum recording times. The RC5 offers a monstrous 13 hours of recording, which you can distribute across 99 different storage locations so that you can save your looped creations. And if you want to load in some WAV loops you've created elsewhere into the pedal, then that's possible over USB. An inbuilt rhythm section makes practicing without your drummer a breeze, with 7 different kit styles and 57 rhythm variations. You can use this to inspire your practice or bring those drums in and out over MIDI control for performing live. While all the essential features can be accessed from this unit alone, a single foot switch looper can be a little restrictive, which is exactly why Boss have opted to include an external foot switch connection, allowing you to assign just about any parameter in here to up to 2 external foot switches or an expression pedal. So if you want a dedicated stop button, or perhaps foot switches to cycle through the memory locations, or even a volume control to fade in or out the loop level, then all that and more is possible through the pedal menu. And that MIDI functionality allows full control of the pedal from an external foot controller, or you can even sync it up with your DAW or other devices. The list of what this can do goes on, but if that's simply not enough for you, the big brother of this pedal, the RC500, expands those features even further. In the 1950s, when Les Paul was first dabbling in using tape machines to loop recorded sound and create layered multi-track recordings, he came under a lot of criticism for not being a real musician, using some trickery of electronics to create these grand sounds instead of talent. With the benefit of hindsight, we now know how influential these technologies would become for all of us, both for multi-track recording and for live looping, but sadly, these criticisms still remain. Every advancement in musical technology, or indeed musical approach, is met with vicious opposition from the old guard with the same accusations used against Les Paul. You're not a real musician if you use technology X or process Y. Case in point, I'm going to drop the name Ed Sheeran right now, and guaranteed the majority of my metalhead audience just knee-jerk reacted into a scoffing laugh about how he's a talentless muppet and not a real musician. I mean, setting aside the fact that he's sold more records and has more adoring female fans than your greasy macho deathcore project ever will, he's also a very accomplished live performer, particularly in the field of using looper pedals. Just watch how flawlessly he can build an entire song from nothing and bring loops in and out on command for maximum musical impact.
Short high and I gone hyper. Never be anything but a singer-songwriter. Yeah, the game's over, but now I'm on a new level. Watch how I step on the track without a loop pedal. People think that I'm bound to blow up. I've done a round.
While I could never hope to recreate the stunning live performances the likes of Ed Sheeran or KT Tunstall can effortlessly pull out, I'm going to attempt to demonstrate how a mere mortal of average ability could use the RC5 for both practice and live performance. there we are, a little bit of Looper history and a look at the latest Boss RC5 loop station. If you fancy getting into live looping for yourself after having seen this video, then as ever, links are in the description should you want to check this out further, or even grab one for yourself. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's a future version of myself out there somewhere that needs to be dealt with. Keep it loud, and stay safe. I really hope that haircut isn't in my future.